Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss about the physiology of the eye. You can see a gross structure of the eyeball, where you can see in front we have the cornea and the sclera, then behind there is the iris, then the lens, the vitreous cavity. You can see in the middle there is a stem like structure which is the optic nerve, and at the posterior side there is the retina, and the optic nerve comes out through the optic canal. Now, what are the protectors of the eye? The protectors of the eye are bony orbit of the eye, extraocular muscles, eyelids, eyelashes, conjunctiva and tears, which contain enzyme lysozyme which inhibits the bacterial growth. Now, in the accessory structures we have eyelids, eyebrows, eyelashes and the lacrimal apparatus. In the eyelids we have from outside inside skin layer, orbicularis oculi muscle, tarsal plate and meibomian gland. The eyelids help in protection of the eyeball and secretion, distribution and drainage of tears. They protect the eye from direct sunlight, dust, perspiration and foreign bodies. In this picture you can see the lacrimal apparatus along with the lacrimal gland, which is situated in the outer upper third of the eye. Now, the superior and inferior canaliculi, they combine to form the common canaliculi, which again then they drain into the lacrimal sac, which in turn drains to the nasolacrimal duct and finally into the inferior meatus of the nose. The lacrimal gland is a lobulated exocrine gland secreting tears, and the lacrimal ducts are 6 to 12 in number, and they dump tears on the surface of the conjunctiva of the upper lid through the palpebral part of the gland. Now, tear film, it is comprised of 3 layers. It is a tri-layered film. The mucous layer is the innermost, then the watery layer, and the outermost is the oily layer. The lipid layer is produced by the meibomian gland, gyre and mole. It is hydrophobic in nature. The middle layer is aqueous layer. It is the thickest. It is 7 micrometer. It is produced by the lacrimal gland. The mucous layer is 0.2 micrometer. It is produced by the microscopic goblet cells in the conjunctiva and glands of Mans. The conjunctiva, it is a mucous membrane lining the eyelids and covering the anterior eyeball up to the edge of the cornea. It is of 2 parts. It has 2 parts, bulbar and palpebral. The bulbar part covers the sclera and the palpebral lines the inside of the upper and lower lids. Now, the structure of the eyeball has basically 3 tunics or coverings. The outer tunic is known as the sclera. The middle tunic, it is a vascular tunic. It is comprised of the choroid, and the inner tunic is the nervous tunic or retina. Retina is the photosensitive layer of the eye which translates the light impulses into electronic impulse which travels down the optic pathways to the brain. Now, the outermost layer comprises of the cornea and the sclera. They form a spherical shell which makes the outer wall of the eyeball. Here you can see the diagram. The sclera is principally collagenous, avascular and relatively acellular. The cornea and the sclera merge at the corneal edge, which is known as the limbus. What are the chief functions of the cornea? It helps in protection against invasion of microorganisms into the eye. It helps in transmission and focusing light, screening out damaging ultraviolet rays from the sunlight. Now, its refractive index is 1.37 and the refractive power is about 45 diopters. Now, the refraction of the cornea refracts 75% of the light transmitted, and rest is done by the lens, and the image is projected on the retina, which is inverted, minimized and real. Now, there are 5 layers in the cornea. From outside inwards we have the epithelium, the Bowman's membrane, stroma, Descemet's membrane and endothelium. Now epithelium, it is made of epithelial cells. It is a thin layer that keeps the stroma dehydrated. It acts as a barrier to protect the cornea from free flow of fluids from the tears and prevents bacteria from entering the epithelium and corneal stroma. It is extremely sensitive to pain and it can regenerate itself once damaged. Now next layer is the Bowman's membrane, which is a cellular non-regenerating layer, and once it is damaged it heals by forming scar. The stroma is one of the thickest layers. It lies just beneath the Bowman's membrane. It is primarily water 78% and collagen 16% and keratocytes. It gives the cornea the strength, elasticity and form, and it is fairly dehydrated, which contributes greatly to the light conducting transparency. Then comes the Descemet's membrane, which is composed of collagen and posteriorly made of endothelial tissue. It can regenerate after injury. Now final, the innermost layer and the most vital layer is the endothelium. It is a monolayer cells. It is responsible for regulating fluid and solute transport between the anterior chamber and the stroma. Now it contains the endothelial pump, which is an energy dependent mechanism which helps in transport of iron and water. Iron is transported from stroma to aqueous humor and water is driven out of the stroma to keep it dehydrated. These cells do not regenerate, and if they are destroyed, corneal transplant is the only therapy. Now this is very important. What factors contribute to the corneal transparency? Number one is the peculiar arrangement of the corneal lamella. They are arranged in a lattice pattern. Second, the peculiar refractive index, which has variation less than 200 micrometers. Third, the cornea is totally avascular. Then we have fourth point, relative state of dehydration, that is 78% water content, which is maintained by barrier effects of epithelium and endothelium and the active sodium potassium ATPase pump of the endothelium. Then we have the swelling pressure of the stroma. It counters the imbibition effect of the intraocular pressure. And corneal crystallines, which are water soluble proteins of keratocytes, they also contribute to the corneal transparency. Now cornea is a actively metabolic layer. The epithelium and the endothelium are the most actively metabolizing layer of the cornea. Source of nutrients are solutes and oxygen. Solutes come from simple diffusion, active transport through aqueous humor, diffusion from perilimbal capillaries, and oxygen is derived directly from the air through the tear film. Now we have two types of fluid inside the eyeball. One is the aqueous humor and the second is the vitreous humor. Aqueous humor is the clear fluid in the anterior chamber of the eye. It is produced by the ciliary bodies, and vitreous humor is the clear gelatinous fluid in the posterior chamber of the eye. Now middle part of the middle tumor contains the ciliary body. It is a highly vascularized tissue. It is composed of ciliary processes and muscles. It is continuous with the choroid behind and the iris in front. Now ciliary process, you can see finger like projections here. These are the ciliary processes. They secrete the aqueous humor in the posterior chamber, which goes to the anterior chamber, and it nourishes and oxygenates the cornea and the lens. The ciliary muscles, these are a set of muscles. These are the three types of muscles: meridianal, oblique and sphincteric. They affect the shape of the lens during accommodation. You can see the middle portion is the lens, then we have the orangish portion is the ciliary body, ciliary muscle, and in between we can see spike like structures, which are the ligaments, zonules of the lens. Now aqueous humor, how it is formed? It is derived from the plasma within the capillary network of ciliary processes, and it fills the anterior chamber, 0.25 ml in the anterior chamber and 0.06 ml in the posterior chamber of the eyeball. Its refractive index is 1.336, and normal production rate is 2.3 microliters per minute, and there are three mechanisms by which it is transported: diffusion, ultrafiltration and secretion. Flow of aqueous humor, we have here the flow mainly is the trabecular outflow and the uveoscleral outflow. Trabecular outflow comprises the major portion, that is 70 to 80%. It flows through the trabecular meshwork into the canal of Slem and then to the collector channels. And in the uveoscleral outflow, we have ciliary body, then to the suprachoroidal space, then to the venous circulation of the ciliary body, choroid and the sclera. And the aqueous humor flows from the posterior to the anterior chamber via the iris opening, that is pupil, into the anterior chamber. You can see a short picture of the flow of the aqueous humor. What is the function of the aqueous humor? It helps in maintenance of the proper intraocular pressure, which is usually 10 to 21 millimeter of mercury. It has some metabolic and nutritional role. It also helps in maintaining optical transparency, and it clears the blood, macrophages, remnants of lens matter and products of inflammation from the anterior chamber. Here you can see a big diagram. The orangish tissue in the middle layer is choroid. It is thin brown tissue. It is highly vascularized. It provides nutrients and oxygen to the retina. And the choroid is opaque, making sure no light is scattered from the sclera to the retina. Here you can see one is orange small hole in the center, and one the hole is the larger darker portion. The first one is the iris, which is constricted, and the second one is the dilated pupil. It is a colored portion of the eye positioned between the cornea and the lens. It has three types of muscles: the smooth radial muscle, the sphincter pupillae and the dilator pupil. What is the function of the pupil? The hole in between in the center is for regulation of light rays. Now we come to the lens. The lens is a biconvex, avascular, colorless, almost clear structure which is suspended from the ciliary bodies on the rim of the posterior section of the eye by tiny fibers which are known as granules of Gin. About 65% is water and 35% is protein in lens. Its function is to focus the light waves onto the macula by changing the curvature of the lens. There are no pain fibers, blood vessels or nerves in the lens. Its refractive index is 1.39 and the total dioptric power is around 18 diopters. Now the accommodative power of the lens varies from different ages. At birth it is around 14 to 16 diopters, 7 to 8 diopters at 25 years and 1 to 2 diopter at around 50 years of age. What is accommodation? Accommodation is a process by which the curvature of the lens is increased in order to focus on a near object. It is an active process that requires muscular actions. At rest, objects closer to 6 meter to the eye appear blurred. This blurriness is diminished by accommodation. When looking at a near object, the ciliary muscles contract, the distance between the edges of the ciliary bodies decrease and the lens ligaments relax. Thus the lens becomes more convex. Here you can see in this diagram, in the first picture it is for distant vision. Here the ciliary muscles are relaxed, the granules are taut and keeps the lens flattened for distant vision. And in near vision the opposite occurs. The ciliary muscles contract, which releases the tension in the granules, and the lens is acquiring a more convex shape or more rounded shape which is suitable for near vision. Now the last layer is the retina. It is thin, semi-transparent, multi-layered sheet of neural tissue. It terminates anteriorly at the ora serrata. Now we have basically two cavities. Anterior cavity, we have the anterior chamber and the posterior chamber. Anterior chamber located between the cornea and the iris, and posterior chamber is between the iris and the lens. This anterior and posterior chamber both are filled with aqueous humor. Increase in intraocular pressure in these chambers lead to glaucoma. In the posterior cavity we have the vitreous body. It is clear avascular gelatinous body comprising 2/3 of the volume of the eye, 99% water and 1% hyaluronic acid and collagen. The vitreous fluid is around 4 ml. The vitreous is adherent to retina at certain points, particularly at the optic disc and the ora serrata. That's all for today. Thank you.